Good morning. This is the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Sunday, July 21st. Looking at the fire impact map for the next couple of days, we do expect to see thunderstorms, dry, maybe mixed with some wet, but definitely drier than wetter, popping up across far northwestern Nevada along the Sierra front this afternoon, isolated. Becoming a bit more widespread as we go into Monday and especially Tuesday, covering much of the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin. This will be our first big lightning outbreak, the first decent shot of semi-monsoonal moisture we've had in quite some time over some very dry fields, which we'll look at in a second. Not much precipitation or lightning across the area in the last 24 hours. That'll be changing. Initial attack fairly light, about a dozen new fire starts in the red, most of them on the small side. Precipitation over the past 2 weeks, bone dry, either no precipitation or this shade of blue. This first shade is basically a few hundredths of an inch, not even the wetting rain. So you can see that about 80 to 90% of the geographic area has not had any wetting rain for the past 2 weeks. And the brick red color here indicates, in terms of percent of normal, that is anywhere from 0 to 5% of what we normally expect this time of year. Especially significant is in southern areas where normally the monsoon is in full swing as we start heading into the last week of July, and really not much semblance of it. As a result, ERCs have steadily climbed, and we now see red to dark reds, 80th to 90th percentile, even some 90 to 96 percentiles in the dark red. Trailing off a little bit as you head into northwestern Nevada and southern Idaho, but even there the ERCs don't tell the whole story. The grass is above average grass crop and fully cured in a lot of areas, but even the higher terrain of the mountains of central Idaho, ERCs are getting towards the 80th to 90th percentile in a few stations. In terms of grass crop and susceptibility to fire, the 10-hour fuels in the red, 3 to 4%. The dark red to brick color is the 1 to 2%, basically the lowest values that you see. And a lot of these driest values are in regions that will probably see some significant lightning over the next 48 to 72 hours. Looking at 100-hour fuels, some lightning-prone areas, the mountains northwest of Vegas and the Spring Mountains. You can see there, their ERCs are at record. Their 100-hour fuels are at record low levels. Arizona Strip and southwest Utah also ERCs at record levels because the monsoon is not yet developed. And even northwest Utah, 100-hour fuels are below normal and just above record dry levels for late July. So significant all across Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip. 100-hour fuels are below normal now and near record levels in some areas. Now, the live fuels have been the only saving grace so far. From anywhere from south central Idaho, you can see that's still above normal, normal being the green dashed line. Same thing in northwest Utah, dropping fast but still significantly above normal. Similar story in parts of north central Nevada, above normal but below 125. So sagebrush across a good chunk of Nevada is probably most susceptible to aiding the spread of fire. Satellite imagery shows a strong high pressure ridge with above normal temperatures building across the basin and clear skies, no clouds now. You see the clouds gathering down in Mexico in the Baja region, and with clockwise flow around high pressure, the backside flow is coming from the south, and that will push that moisture further north as we go into the next 24 to 48 hours. We look at today's map, there's a high pressure ridge right over the four corners where it typically is this time of year. Not a lot of consolidated moisture yet. The moisture is in bits and pieces, starting to push upwards. You notice this enhanced area along the Sierra front. There's some good instability off of there, as well as some orographic lift at the way the wind flow hits the mountains. We don't have high risk there, but we do have impacts maybe for some isolated lightning through that area. And if we look at our precipitation chart, the high-resolution models are showing some precipitation in terms of convection. This will be lightning along the Sierra front and near Reno. Also a little bit maybe across northeast Nevada and perhaps across the Uintas as well. And looking at the humidities in all these areas, still bone dry, single digits to low teens across the southern half of the Great Basin, even to Idaho, low to mid-teens. Now for tomorrow, notice much more green on the map. The high pressure strengthens, starts gathering a bit more subtropical moisture. The deepest monsoon moisture still deep to the south, but for dry lightning, this is actually the most favorable setup. The monsoon coming in bits and pieces as opposed to one consolidated big, wet, heavy mass. So we should start seeing a bit more moisture. We have high risk for a good portion of northwestern Nevada. This seems to be the best push right now. Not so much over Utah, although we could see some over the Arizona Strip by late in the day. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But the big push coming in across western Nevada from south to north. Again, you see the computer model, and this just shows where precipitation is expected to reach the ground. These are dry lightning signatures, little pin drops stretched out. However, there will be some areas that do not see precipitation reach the ground, but could still see lightning occurring. I'll have to keep an eye on that. And humidity's, again, bone dry, single digits to low teens across most areas. Now, Tuesday is most likely going to be our big lightning day, and a lot of this could be occurring nocturnally, Monday night to Tuesday morning, as well as expanding during the day. Tuesday, you see much more green across the area, now sliding into parts of Utah, Idaho. We've left Idaho out of the high risk for lightning now. We'll have to evaluate that some further as new model data comes in, but a large area of high risk for lightning, mix of wet and dry, but over some very dry to near record dry fuels. Not a lot of rain with it, so this is what we're looking for as we get into the early part of next week. And you can see the precipitation-wise, little strips coming through. There'll be some embedded heavier cores of rain in between, but there'll be a lot more of the very dry, couple hundredths of an inch to strikes hitting outside the very narrow rain shafts across Nevada, Utah, Arizona Strip. Maybe some more consolidated moisture, wetter showers and lightning over the higher terrain of central and eastern Idaho. Humidities come up a little bit into the teens, near 20%, but still not the very moist conditions of 30% or 40% humidity that you typically get when the monsoon is in full swing. So on the large scale precipitation over the next 3 days, not that much. The deepest moisture still stays down in central Arizona and down into Mexico, and actually shifts into Colorado. Now on Wednesday, some drier air punches into northwestern Nevada and into Idaho. So if we do get lightning there, then they'll get some drier air, maybe some breezes we'll have to be concerned with as we go into Wednesday. Drier air into Idaho, but more moisture trapped in, some more isolated thunderstorms, a mix of wet and dry, maybe more wet than dry at this point on Thursday. Friday, that moisture moves northwards, again maybe slightly wetter as opposed to drier across Idaho and parts of northern Nevada, although there's still areas that are dry. And then next Saturday, moisture moves out. We have a trough of low pressure that could bring some winds from north to south as we go into next weekend. So again, holdovers will be a concern in some areas. Total 7-day precipitation. We could see some heavier amounts in the mountains of southern Utah that could diminish fire threats for a little while, but otherwise most of the other moisture will be fairly light, and once we dry out, fire activity and holdovers most likely will be an issue. 8 to 14 day outlook, July 28th to August 3rd, above normal temperatures. Below normal precipitation for most of the geographic area. The monsoon gets pushed further south into Arizona, so we can still see significant fire threats going into early August. This concludes our briefing. Have a great day.